guys, it's Kelly, and I'm really glad you're here today with us. I've got a really good friend with me today. We're talking about friendship and different aspects of friendship. And so I want you to meet my friend Beth. So Beth, I know a lot about you, but can you tell everybody just a little bit about yourself and your life?
Yeah. I'm a DJ at a nightclub. I have been in the Olympics.
Yep.
None
of that is true.
Yeah.
Just
I wish it was half of it. Which half?
Right.
I am just blessed enough to be a friend of yours. I have been married to my husband, Shane, for 11 years. We have 4 daughters. I get lots of sleep. My house is clean all the time. I used to do Christian music full time and from like 14 to 21. And then since then have been able to be home and just really enjoy that and live here in North Dallas. Dallas, same as you, but just a different part of Dallas.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Which sometimes feels much further than it actually is. But
yeah.
So we've been friends for a really long time. I think we first met you guys when you and Shane were engaged at your house. You had us over for dinner. You might not remember.
We weren't living together.
No. Thank you for clarifying. Okay. Shane's house. You came over to make dinner at his house that you did not live at.
Yes.
To host us for dinner where we were in Dallas. We didn't live here yet. And where Jimmy was making a record and we came over and had dinner. So that was probably 10 plus years ago?
Yeah, 12.
Okay. So we've been through, we're talking today specifically about changes in friendship, which we all face. And that can be really hard to navigate and scary to navigate for a lot of us. And so we're going to talk about that. But we, in particular, I feel like have been through a lot of changes in our friendship from like you guys being engaged. We weren't living in the same city. And then we moved to the same city like 5 minutes away. Now you live an hour away. What other changes have we been through?
Different church bodies that we've been a part of. We were in different church homes and then in the same, and then now we're, so kind of that like intersection point.
Yeah. And then even like children, because I think we first met, none of us had children, and now you have 4 girls. We have 3 kids. And even living in the same city, in the same church community, that's a change in a friendship that people experience. So what would you say when you think about navigating all that well? What are things that come to mind of like how we can do that well with our friendships?
Yeah, I feel like that's been like most things in friendship, that's just, you kind of learn by doing it wrong because something feels like it's going awry when there's changes happening, whether it's like the frequency of seeing that friend goes way down or you're involved in different ministries at church all of a sudden, or you've just had a newborn and you're not around as much to like say yes to the things, whatever it is. Like, I think that the things that have ended up being helpful for me happen through being in the trench of like, why do I feel so jealous? Or why do I feel so left out? Or why don't I feel pursued? Or why do I feel that weirdness with that friend? And it's the process of untangling that and praying through that, that I feel like the Lord grows all of us, but has grown me in that.
So if somebody's facing that right now, like all those feelings you said, they shouldn't necessarily think there's condemnation in that, or even like that's not something good that's happening. I think we're tempted to go, oh, I'm just really bad at this friendship thing.
No one is good at being a friend. Like no one is good at being a mom or a wife or a friend or an evangelist, or no one is good at that. And I really struggle with that. Like I want everything to be my A game, first try all the time. And I can get paralyzed by like, what went wrong? Like, is this friendship over? And so to answer your question, after giving the grace of like, if you're in that spot in a friendship or know of a friendship that is like has a proclivity towards that. Like that is so common. And I would say there've been things like we've talked about before, like there have been things that are really practical that have helped me in changes. The nature of what my husband and I do, which is Christian music, like there's always some type of change or like a rhythm is getting changed. And so I've had lots of opportunities to practice. Okay, when I feel something weird with a friend, whether that's coming from me or I'm sensing something from them, to not stew on that and to not withdraw, or to like on the opposite end of the spectrum to like try my best to please them like crazy to figure out what it is, but instead to have a conversation of like, hey, when this happened or when you said this, like that felt kind of weird to me, and maybe it's just me, but hey, is there anything, has there been an offense, or is there something that I don't see that I would love to know? Or hey, like I've been feeling like you haven't texted as much, or like we're not hanging out as much, or play dates aren't happening as often. Like, is that a reason? Am I just in my head? And that can go overboard for sure. But I feel like the practice of humbling myself enough to go, yeah, I'm not cool, calm, collected all the time. And like everyone can come to me. It's like, no, like that's the effort of relationship in general is humbling yourself and being vulnerable enough. And then within that, I think in those first conversations in a friendship, I'm learning to say like, hey, can I just trust, like once we've talked about it and worked that out, to also be mindful to say like, can I just trust that if there's ever something that you need to bring to me, that I just know you're going to bring it to me, that I don't need to be in my head. And likewise, like, I don't want you to worry that I'm stewing or, I don't know, holding something over you, that I'm going to be faithful to come to you and let you know that there's been an offense or there's been a misunderstanding. So that we can just cut that out of
the guessing game.
Yes. Like the emotional toll.
Trying to read each other's minds.
That takes. Yeah.
That's all what we're trying to do is like, figure out what are you thinking? And maybe that person's trying to do that for me. And that's really exhausting.
So exhausting.
And then what could be a friendship that is mutually encouraging, spurring one another onto Christ, being about something bigger than ourselves, that can actually happen because we're just sidelining that weird game that we play sometimes. Like, do you like me? Do you not like me? And just going, let's just agree to say, we're not going to play that game. Right. That's really what you're saying is coming to a friend and saying, I don't want to play that game. I hope you don't want to either. So let's have a mutual understanding. If you have an issue with me, I'm probably not going to know it. So you should come and tell me, and vice versa, with humility and grace. And I know we've had several of those conversations ourselves in different ways, whether it's been one of us coming to the other and be like, I feel like something is weird. And you're like, no, it's not. And then I have to then trust, okay, it's not. Right. And I'm going to do the discipline to move on and not overthink it. And sometimes there is something that's been, and sometimes it's not even related to us. I know there's been times too where I can't even think of a specific example right now because we've had so many of these conversations that it's like, oh, you might be feeling something weird, but it's definitely not you. It's just, I have something else heavy going on and I'm really weighed down by it. And it's probably showing up in other arenas. And, but that then invites you as a friend to come in and help bear a burden that maybe you didn't know existed. Or maybe that friend didn't want to share yet, but probably needed to. Yeah. So that's such a good practice. And I think a hard one for most people. Yeah. Because what you're essentially saying is when there's tension, go to that tension instead of what we naturally do, which is, oh, there's tension. I'll move 5 streets over that way, as far away from it as I can get. Right. And just slowly back away, maybe. Yes. And I think too, just to that point, it's like our tendency as humans is to make everything about us. Yeah. No matter what. And so it's like the moving 5 streets away because of tension is a self-protect thing of like, I don't want to know if I disappointed you. I don't want to feel tension. That's not worth it to me. And what
even you just said of like, sometimes there is something going on in a friendship and it has nothing to do with you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's such a healthy thing to hear. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, like it's not, wait, you're not like thinking about me and like how I
Right.
affect every part of your life. Like, oh, great. That's reality.
Yes.
And I think it frees us from that we all can fall into.
Yes. And I think that we're talking about this really in the context of change, seasons of change, which I think this can happen anytime in a friendship, tension, but changes in season of life, personal, going from maybe a good season to a hard season, having children, like it just creates enough shifting in that friendship that it's very normal, I think, when you're in a friendship with somebody and their life is changing and yours is changing, to feel like, man, this isn't how it used to be. What's up? And we need to talk about this. But, when we think about a friend of ours is about to move, or they're about to get married, or they're about to have a baby, or their parents, they just found out one of their parents has cancer and they're stepping into a caregiver role or whatever that's going on. What are some things that you think, I know I'm about to experience change in a friendship? I see it coming on the horizon. What are some things we can do as friends for one another as we approach that moment that can be a grace and a help?
Yes. I love that word, grace. I think that that has been so vital in healthy friendship for me, especially as a Christ follower, is the gift and the opportunity that we have in our friendships to give each other grace, to remind each other, like, it's not about you. It's not about me. I'm for you. If you win, I win. If you're grieving, I'm going to grieve. Like, how can I help bear that burden? But there's grace. There's no like one friend that is my source of everything. And if that's there, right, then God is gracious enough to show me that. And so I would say, like, prepping for change to happen in a friend's life, like if you're on that side of it, I think is the forethought of, I'm going to go ahead and assume that my needs are not going to be met. Like ones that I know of right now, or what, like disappointments that are coming that I can't see. Like, I want to extend grace to my friend who's going to be a new mom or a new wife, or who's moving to another city. And I'm going to put myself in my friend's shoes and go, okay, what would be a blessing to me is to not feel the weight of expectation or disappointment, or to feel guilt, or if something suddenly, like plans change or something needs to get canceled, like to extend to that friend, like, hey, I'm going to miss you. Like, you need to know I'm going to miss you. I'll be sad if that coffee doesn't work out or if we can't hop on the phone, but totally get it. It's so okay. Like, and that takes work. Like you can say that and you can do the motions of like, I will be a gracious friend, but that requires work on your part of like, all right, it's not about me. And if I trust that God is leading my friend and leading me into the different seasons of life, then I'm going to trust the things that are hard along the way, that I'm going to have to learn. There's going to be a learning curve for me and for my friend. And my mom actually has really taught me the phrase guilt-free friendship. All growing up, she would say that all the time, like, man, just guilt-free friendship, like is invaluable, to feel like it, not like in an indifferent way, but more like in there's understanding there. And that friend, I'm trusting that friend's going to work towards understanding
and give grace.
And give grace.
That I'm going to give grace. And
essentially,
I'm going to need it too. Because we're all often, it's hard to be on the side where your friend is changing. Something's changing in their life and you kind of are sad that it's not staying the same. But then when we're on the other end of that, it's such a blessing to receive. And I think that's what makes you want to give it out. Absolutely. And I know you've been a friend who's done that for me. And I have a few others who've, even in writing this book, it was really hard to write. It was heavy. It took a lot of time and energy and emotions. And it just zapped a lot of my ability to give that to other people. And I had friends like you who are essentially saying, I see the Lord giving you this to do. So like just giving grace, like, hey, I know that you're more limited and it's okay. And I'm okay. And that weight, because I care about you and I care about my other friends. And so there's a longing to not want that to happen, and kind of a grief that I can't be the same friend in that season that I could in others. So then to hear from you or someone else, it's okay. And I'm for you because this is about God's kingdom and not ours, is just like wind under your wings. I feel like to just go, okay, like you're enabling me to run hard after Christ and what he has for me. And that is so freeing and liberating and life-giving. It easily makes you want to do that for other people. Yeah. And I know that I just don't think that's that common of a friendship experience, which is why I wanted to talk about this, because I hope that people watching are going, man, I want friendships like that. And the hard part is they might have to be the ones to give that grace first before receiving it back. And that's hard. But I think so worth it. What ditches do you feel like we can tend to fall into in like change with friendships? Because I know they're there for me. You know, what do you see in your own life of like falling into one of these two lanes?
Those two extremes of like, feeling that friendship is threatened. And so like, you want to be that person's best friend and like, okay, how do I pencil it in? And like, no matter what, like I'm going to be driving or to work yourself into a tizzy of, not wanting something to change or not wanting your place on the totem pole of their life, you know, to change. Then there's the other extreme, which I honestly naturally fall into a little more often, is the like isolation, like, hey, it's fine. Like I'll just be alone. My social calendar can be empty. That feels kind of comfy most of the time. And man, the Lord has just over and over brought Proverbs 18:1 to the forefront for me of like the man who isolates himself, seeks his own desire, and he breaks out against all sound judgment. And I feel like the Lord, I mean, there's wisdom in having alone time that is fruitful, but living life alone because friendship is hard or because you've lost friendships that you know, felt kindred or felt really especially valuable, is not a healthy place to land either. And I've been in that place. You know, we moved 2 years ago and I still feel new. And I have to continually remind myself and let the word remind me to be disciplined in being okay with seasons changing and being okay with whoever the Lord has in my day to day, and to not stake my happiness or contentment on it being a specific friendship, not falling in either extreme, but trusting him in what he's providing in the season I'm in.
Staking your happiness in Christ, which you do really well, friend. And I think that that's at the end of the day, everything we're talking about is only possible if our fullness of joy is found in Christ and if our purpose is found in him. And so that undergirds this and enables all of this. So thank you so much for being here today and talking with me about all of this. And I'm grateful for your faithfulness as a friend to me. And I hope that you're encouraged today just hearing this conversation. And I know there's hard things in what we're talking about, but friendships are worth it even when they have grief and change. And Christ is able to sustain us through all of that. So thanks for joining us.